The Cashless Society. I recently did a video on assholes, and I'm currently working on another presentation on bullshit. The trick will be not to make the talk 10 hours long with the one on bullshit. Bullshit has been around since the dawn of any kind of civilization because there have always been assholes, and assholes in power use bullshit as a tool to further their own ethical agendas. Now, the topic of assholes is a slightly more complex one than what people actually may believe, so I really encourage you to listen to the one that I did on assholes, perhaps even twice, because this material is complicated, and normally when you read books on ethics and law, you have to read them twice before you understand them, even 3 times. And this is universal. Some of the stuff is complex, and it's universal, and anybody that picks up some of these books has to read them 2 or 3 times. So listen to the talk on assholes 2 or 3 times and really understand what I'm trying to say. Now, if you've ever visited a livestock farm, you know that for the first few hours, all you smell is shit. The smell of shit is ubiquitous, but you soon get used to it, and then you're no longer conscious of it. The Western world has been immersed in bullshit since prior to 1913. Bullshit is how the powers that be got our governments to adopt private banks as the monetary branch of government. So the governments in all Western countries were being funded by interest-charging private banks. The notion of bankruptcy is inevitable. So once you fund a country by private banks, you know right away that country is going to go bankrupt, because where is the interest on the debt payments going to come from? They're going to have to keep printing more money. So in 1933, all the Western countries went bankrupt. Now, we've been having a lot of wars and foreign occupations since 1933, and the real reason for all these wars and foreign occupations is to put these same privately funded central banks in all the other countries, so that the banks can uniformly take over all of the world. Now, in 1933 we went bankrupt, so in 2003 the 70 years would have been up by law, and we should have had a jubilee, and the debt should have been eliminated. But instead we got 9/11 and the anthrax letters. Now, these private banks want a cashless society worldwide, and absolute control over people through the currency has been an agenda forever, but people are actually controlled by money, not by governments. And we've been fighting these wars for about over 70 years now to ensure that all these smaller countries have central banks. And Westerners don't mind, because they can buy their stuff at slave labor costs. So we have sweatshops and stuff make our shoes and our clothes, and it makes our economy seem good, because the kids making our smartphones are making 25 cents an hour. So this stuff is cheap for us, and it makes our economy seem to be really good, when in fact it isn't. It's highly dependent on slave labor. Private banks get their worldwide cashless society. They will have control over absolutely every single living person in society. This includes CEOs, judges, doctors, lawyers, surgeons. Everybody from the smallest to the most accomplished will be under complete control of the banks. And the reason for this is that the minute you step on the reservation, and they will likely know in real time by tracking you on the cell phone, they can shut off your ability to conduct commerce. You can go to work, but you can't get paid. You can't pay your rent. You can't buy food. What are you going to do? Well, you're going to go to them and plead your case. What happens to you as a result of going to them to plead your case will be entirely up to them, and no one will be able to oppose what they wish to do with you in any way, shape, or form. Police will not be necessary, because when you break the rules, they'll know about it in real time from tracking your cell phone. They'll shut you off. You go to the grocery store, you go buy groceries, you're in the lineup and you can't pay. All of a sudden you've got no money. I know what that feels like. It's happened to me. They have debanked me. I work at a temp agency and now have to cash my checks at check cashing places, because I won't fill out my tax return, because the tax return is an unconscionable contract and I refuse to fill it out. So police will not be necessary. The world will be under overt control of these central banks. Wars and soldiers will no longer happen, so they'll have to stage a big war to kill off all the armies. They don't want a bunch of, I can't see them really wanting a bunch of people that know how to use weapons in the general population while this is being done to everybody. So I think that when we look at the ostensible reason for the COVID-19, the ostensible reason is to protect everybody, to keep everybody safe. This lockdown is to keep everybody safe. But I think the real reason is to scare people out of using cash. The big agenda is to get this cashless society, and then the New World Order will be firmly in place, and absolutely no one will have any rights, only privileges granted to them by the private banks. And I think that we need to really start thinking about this, and that this could be the dawn of a new time when these powers behind the banks can be made to go away, humanity can be set free again, and we can restore free speech. If we can restore free speech, then this kind of thing will never happen again. It's been a long road for me for 20 years trying to convince people of the nature of the private banks and how they operate our societies. But I think that a plendamik such as this can give people a lot of free time and learn about how money is created and disseminated through society, and can realize the level of corruption, theft, and bullshit that we face on a daily basis. And I believe public opinion is the absolute ruler. Until they get electronic money firmly in place, public opinion rules, which is why they are always putting such an effort into propaganda. The CIA is a propaganda organization. It's not a cloak and dagger spy organization. They're in Hollywood. They're controlling what you think. And I explained some of this in the other video, Assholes, as well. So please consider the nature of the cashless society. And if you don't already know how banks operate countries, I would really highly recommend a movie online called The Money Masters, or any movie that really lays out how the banks run countries. Or John Perkins' book, Confessions of an Economic Hitman, is another one. And Perkins has some talks on YouTube as well. So I think the first step is to really learn a little bit more about money and why, the reason for the monetary reform movement. And then I think that we can gain a widespread understanding of the nature of power in this technological society. And once public opinion reaches a certain level, it's the 100th monkey theory. Once enough people know, then everybody knows, and this whole agenda can stop or be reversed, because it's in no one's interest to have electronic money in our civilization. We should always be using cash, and that goes from the biggest to the smallest of us. Thank you for listening.